Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC. With me is,
Wolf.
and today we are here to ask you the question, what's up, danger? Because we are talking about one of my favorite films ever, honestly. And if you know me, you probably know why, and yeah, just why. But we're gonna talk about this anyway because check the calendars. Across the Spider Verse is coming out really soon, so it only made sense that we are going together here and talk about the prequel just before we delve into that one. So, Wolf, I made it clear that I really love this movie. What do you think?
Oh, I hate it. It's awful.
Of course you did. You are gonna start it with that. I know,
I
I
mean,
know.
always, because
Hmm.
great joke, wonderful joke. No,
Yeah, you never ran into the ground. Never. You
this
you
movie.
you used it more times than they killed Uncle Ben.
Listen, I'm consistent. What can I say? I'm predictable.
Mhm.
I'm not in the business of being like, ooh, what am I gonna do?
Yeah,
Just it's
of course.
predictability, predictable chaos, consistent chaos. That's what you get from me. Anyways,
Mhm.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I loved it. It was great. Like it's beautiful to watch. The music in it really ties it together. It's like the shot, the cinematography, the shots, the way they combine and contrast all the different animation styles that go into it. You can tell a lot of work went into this, right? A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right? Like
And
if I had to
most of
compare
all,
it to
love.
something more
You can
recent,
tell
yeah,
that
like you
there's.
if I had to compare it to something more recent, like Puss in Boots, the sequel that came out recently, yeah, like you can
Ironic.
feel the love. Yeah, I know, ironic. You can feel the love, right? You can feel the effort and everything that went into this film.
So we already made it clear we love it. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
you haven't seen it for whatever fucking reason, go do that. But just to ask, actually, out of curiosity, did you have any sort of high, not necessarily high, but did you have like any leading into this one? Like, how did you hear about this movie for the
Ooh.
first time? Like,
Oh man, I think first time I heard you talking about it actually.
oh,
I think that might have
well
been the
then.
first time I heard about it. I no, I've heard about it here and there, right? But I try not to get too much into how much any given person hypes up a movie to me. If they say it's good, I'm
Mhm.
like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Like I try to go in with the barest
Yeah,
minimum of expectations that I always can. That way,
yeah,
I can
I'm just
always
like
walk
you.
away either it was bad, but you know what? I didn't hate it. Or I can walk away like, you know what? I was pleasantly surprised. Or I can walk away like that was amazing. Great, right? So for me, that's how I always try to walk in films. It's rare that I walk into something where I'm hyped for this. Let's go. And then get horribly disappointed because I've been around long enough. I've had that happen. So I've
Hmm.
learned. You just no
Yeah.
emotions ever.
Mm. I will say because the ride to this was interesting for me
Mm-hmm.
because when this was announced, right? This was they just announced initially that there's going to be a theatrical animated Spider-Man movie around the same time the deal with Marvel happened to
Mm-hmm.
let Spidey join the MCU. So I guess they were like, well, if live action Spider-Man is gonna be, we're gonna just contribute to Marvel, then we are gonna do our own thing with animation. And I'm like, all right, you like, because
It's
when you
nice
think
to have
about it,
that different thing, right? I
yeah,
don't think you get
because
a film
when
like
you,
this from Marvel, animated or not. I don't think you get a film like this from Marvel. I mean,
yeah,
I say
but
that we got No Way Home, but they're very
uh,
different in style in terms of
one,
approach.
but
We can
also
get there, and we can talk about that.
one different style, two different ways of doing it. Also, you could say that No Way Home was inspired by this in a way,
I
but
disagree with that statement, but we'll get there.
I mean just the idea. But again,
Mm-hmm.
we'll get there. We'll talk about this later. But what I want to say, so if so it's like if Sony wants to do their own Spidey thing, while they kind of have the deal with Marvel, so it's like, you know what, all right, animation is an interesting way to go about this, especially because the animated Sony division had some good movies. Emoji movie aside, they had some. They had Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. There's the Lego movie.
I
They're
feel
all
like
hits.
out of the three you've named, one of those was really good. The other one, it was fine, but I
Uh,
think it's
well,
become a bit
yeah,
more of
but
a cult classic, and the other one, which we don't talk about the
yeah,
other one.
like Cloudy with Chance of Meatballs, I enjoyed the first one enough. Like it's not a masterpiece, but it's like yeah, I had fun. But the point is that emoji movie aside, they had good reputation.
Yeah.
Like you would go in knowing that you'll have a good time. And again, there was the Lego movie, the Lego Batman movie was also before this.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, they did the Mitchells versus the Machines, which was also great. Viva, also fantastic. But point is, so it's like, okay, Sony Animation, let's see what they got. And then when they announce it's gonna be a Miles Morales movie, I'm like, okay, interesting. We've had three live action Peter Parkers, so why not give another guy a shot? Why not do one of the other Spider people? I'm down. I'm down.
And
And
then we
also
get
interesting.
two animated Peter Parkers in this film.
Well, but they're not the focus, and we're gonna talk about that because, but considering, we've seen three different Peter Parkers at this point, so I was happy that they decided, what, let's make a Miles Morales movie because,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also interesting to think Miles Morales isn't that old of a character in the mythos, like I think this year it's gonna be 11 years since he debuted, so that's cool. And after now, my concern started when suddenly they're like, the movie is gonna be called Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, Sony, why? Why must you do this? Because what was the problem with Spider-Man 3? It was too bloated. What was the problem with Amazing Spider-Man 2? Too bloated. So now we're going to do the Spider-Verse story in a movie. It's about Miles Morales. Are you trying to make me question things? And then we got the trailer, and I saw this animation, and I'm like, whoa, this looks cool, unique, different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening. I am listening, Sony. And then I also want to stress that this movie came out at the end of 2018. So Spider-Man fans were well fed by that point.
Yeah.
Like earlier this year, we got the Nick Spencer run of the comics, which, from what I've read and from what I've heard other people say, I'm not sure how well it kept going near the end of it, but from what I've seen, it was really good. Spidey was in Avengers Infinity War that year. Great movie, and his first appearance in an Avengers movie. We had the game, the PS4 game by Insomniac. Pick Fiction. If you haven't played it, play it, for Christ's sake, please. And as you can say what you want about it, but Venom got a movie. That's something. And then we head into the Spider Verse, and it's amazing too. So it's I'm still baffled that there was a year with so much good Spider-Man content, and it still rose to the top.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
And so I guess now that we talked about the lead-in for this thing, so when was the first time you watched it? Just to be sure
To
about that.
cover for this show,
Oh wow! Because
because I
I
never
watched
watched it when it first came out.
I I
I'm
watched it.
to be clear,
I
I'm not
watched
that.
it.
To be clear
Yeah.
to our viewers and listeners, I'm not that into Spider-Man. Like, I've enjoyed a lot of the superhero movies, but it's not my thing. And I think, as I've said before, and even before, if we go back in time to 2018, I was getting to that point, if I wasn't already by then, superheroed out. And like, I put some time into Marvel, and I've enjoyed the time I've put into it. I'm just, back then I was already getting to that point of, and now I'm even more just, there's too much. Just stop.
Yeah.
And I hate
No,
that
I
because
get
it's
you.
like there's still really great superhero films that have come out or shows that have come out, but it's like
Mhm.
I'm they've overdone it with Marvel alone.
No,
They've overdone it, and that's not counting
the
stuff like Untouchable and other things
it's
that are good. It's just, I'm just like it's been overdone. Like I'm sorry, it's like we're
no
getting
like
to that.
I'm
If we,
a
yeah,
lot of people a lot of people I think seem to agree with you at least ever since the ever since phase 4 of the MCU started, people are starting to share your thoughts like besides No Way Home and Wakanda Forever, no phase 4 movie really wowed everyone. Like they have their fans here and there, but it's like the
yeah,
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was really good,
I would say
but
that's the only one that's really stuck out so far after No Way Home and Wakanda Forever, especially No Way Home though. I don't even feel Wakanda Forever reached the level No Way Home did. Right?
I thought it was really good,
I'm not
but
saying it's
that's
bad. I'm just saying like in terms of like hype and everyone talking about it, right? I heard people
okay.
talking
Yeah,
about
that's
No Way Home way more than I did Wakanda Forever. And Guardians of the
mhm,
Galaxy 3 is starting to approach that level of like No Way
mhm.
Home and Wakanda Forever, right?
Yeah, indeed. So, but back to Into the Spider Verse, I do also want to talk before we delve into the spoilers and everything. That looking back, this movie didn't make like it didn't bomb or anything. Obviously, we're getting a sequel, but it didn't make that much money compared. Like it's the lowest grossing Spider-Man movie ever. Okay,
To
it
be
did.
fair though, if I'm not mistaken, it has a lower budget than some of the others as well.
Yeah, that's exactly why it's not a bomb. It had a lower budget, and it still did great. But it still did great. Just not spectacular by
I
any
think
means.
I can understand why. And,
Hmm.
and I think
I see why too.
I think some of that has to do with the fact that I mean, it's a very different style for Spider-Man from what we've seen of Spider-Man up until this point, really. And more than that,
Yeah.
I think if there's any one nitpick I would level at this film, right, it's that it doesn't necessarily feel bloated, but it feels like it moves through things fairly quickly, and it feels like all of the cast is good, but no one feels super standout, right? I feel.
I I would disagree.
I
But
I, I
I
mean,
get what you mean, but I didn't feel like I didn't think it feel like someone was underplayed. But considering this movie, yeah, but that's also a thing I like because there are so many characters and they managed to give them their time, but it still focuses on Miles as it
yeah,
should
no,
be because that's
I
his
agree with
story.
you, but at the same time, I feel like if we're getting Miles' story, I think it is overshadowed by all of the other Spider-Men, right? And all the other Spider people, I guess I should say. They overshadow Miles' story to a degree, and it feels like there's some key points in Miles' story that we get to and that we go through very quickly, in
I
my opinion.
guess let's talk about this in the spoilers because I'm interested to hear what you are talking
I
about.
mean, this is very much a nitpick. Let me be clear. Like, there's, in
Mm.
my opinion, not a lot to hate about this film. It is a very solid film.
Mhm. Yeah, I would say again, I'm saying that it's one of those what I call technically perfect movies. Not that they're flawless. Not that there's something that you can say, okay, I might have done this differently or something. But
Mhm,
in terms of how in terms of filmmaking, in terms of what they came to do and how they did it,
mhm.
I have no problems.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, but to talk about like I said, this didn't like compared to the other Spider-Man movies, it didn't do as much, and also the two biggest animated films it was going against at the Oscars, The Incredibles 2 and Ralph Breaks the Internet. Ironically, both underwhelming sequels in a way, but there was some one. Not only did it beat both of them at the Oscars, which is awesome, but there was also this thing where which one of those three people are still talking about, and like in a good way, because Incredibles 2 kind of faded into obscurity. Ralph Breaks the Internet, people aren't really big fans of, and if anything they say it started a downhill trend for Disney now. And Spider Verse is just kept being talked about. Every new Spider-Man movie that comes out, they compare it to it. No Way Home, you could argue, but when the rumors started running about it, they called it live action Spider Verse. They we get a sequel now, and the animation style when it's been used in stuff like Mitchell's Against the Machines, the Puss in Boots 2, The Bad Guys, the new Ninja Turtles movie that's coming out in a few months. People still call this the Spider Verse style. Whenever they see it, they say, "Oh, it looks like Spider Verse. Cool."
I I
Eh,
get
the-
and also hate. I get it and understand it, but I also dislike that shorthand. But yeah, it's fair.
no, it's not necessarily that I'm saying that's do that
Oh
so
no,
in
I
a
know
way to
you're
like
not. I'm saying like
discredit
in
them.
general sense, people use that shorthand right, and I get why we use that shorthand. I understand the shorthand, but I still dislike it because I don't know if I would say like Puss in Boots is in the same style of Spider
No,
Verse, right?
that's what I think it's cool though, because Spider Verse obviously leans more towards the comic book look, while Puss in Boots 2 takes that idea but makes it look a bit more like a fairy tale drawing,
Well,
like
I
a book
think
in a.
correct me if I'm wrong, right? But
Mhm.
I've not seen Puss in Boots yet either. Like I'm really hip with the kids and stay on top of things.
See it, but okay.
I am. I'll get there eventually. I live
Mhm.
under my rock. I come out when I choose to come out
Oh,
most of the
until I
time.
tell you we're doing a podcast about it.
Then I definitely come out, but that's about the only time. But anyways, I kind of have to come out at that point. But anyways, like correct me if I'm wrong, right? But Puss in Boots made a lot of use of frame skipping within their movie, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah,
Does
they
Spider
they
Verse do that
they
as well? Because it felt like it
yes.
did, but I don't. Okay, it did. I
Yeah,
wasn't entirely
they
sure.
did. They did, and the thing is that they did it so that in Spider Verse, it's a kind of like a stylistic choice,
Yeah, because
especially
that's how they
with.
do the comic book stuff when they do their frame skipping, right?
Yeah, like, not only that, but like if you notice, like there are two parts in the movie where we see like the Peter Parker of Miles's dimension and the Peter B. Parker, that both of them do like the wall crawling, on like crawling on a ceiling, right? Both of them do
Mm-hmm.
that animation.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at both of them, you'll see that Peter Parker is like a bit more animation skippy when he does that, and when you see Peter B. Parker do it near the end of the movie, it's a lot smoother. It's a lot, it's a lot more, it's there's like it feels a bit like smoother and less choppy.
Mm.
I
Okay.
think it depends. It's like the skipping frames thing. It was more for Miles, or maybe a bit for. And I want to say Gwen to some extent.
Well, that's fair. Like I think it's definitely a thing. It's a stylistic choice for like action stuff and action set pieces within animation, right? And that's why it
Yeah,
makes a
but
lot
that's
of
the
the
thing too,
film more
and that's the
memorable.
other
And
thing
that's
that Puss in Boots also does that only in the action scenes and not. And when there's
mhm.
no action, the movie kind of runs as usual.
Well, I mean, like they
But then
make
there's also like
yeah.
the regular scenes are normal,
Yeah, both
quote
films make
unquote.
great use of it. That's why you can basically take a lot of screen grabs from some of the action scenes in both films and they look like pieces of art,
Yeah,
right? Like I've seen some of
definitely.
the stuff of Puss fighting the giant, right? And like you can pause.
Hmm.
Like that looks like
Yeah,
just a piece of art. Pause. That also looks like a piece of art. Pause. That also looks like a piece of art. And you can do that here as well. Like there's a few times I
yeah.
paused and just
Like
took
here,
in the
I would argue
scene.
here, like if I had enough room in my workroom to hang every frame of the movie, I would have. Just saying.
Fair, fair.
But,
Like it's a beautiful movie. Cannot
mhm,
understate that. The animators and
mhm.
the background artists, everyone put in a ton of work. This is definitely one of those films that I can very clearly see you want to go back and rewatch it because there's stuff in the background that you missed. 100%.
Mhm. Yeah, not. I'll get to it when we talk about any spoilers. I just something regarding that, but the other thing, this movie, not just in terms of animation, but also in terms of story, I think this kind of brought multiverse into the mainstream in a sense because you look now with the MCU in general. What is this saga called? The multiverse saga. And we also had films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which if you haven't seen, check it out. It's amazing too. Like I know that the Spider-Verse story has obviously been done before this. They took it from somewhere, and they did it in TV shows, games, all that stuff. But I think in terms of like mainstream audiences, this was the first exposure to a multiverse story in mainline cinema. I think anyway.
I don't.
I can't think of
I
something
feel like there's
else.
other stuff, but it's been much much older. Whether it was good or not is
Like I am
the
thinking,
memory doesn't remember.
the one thing that I can think of before and might be Turtles Forever, but that was on TV. It wasn't a theatrical movie.
No, that's fair. Like I think there's been stuff. It's just been way in the past, and right, it was whether it was good or not. The fog clouds, I don't remember.
Yeah,
But I
maybe.
think there has been other stuff, but I will say in recent times, this is probably the most recent one, right? Like this is the first one in recent times. I would
Yeah,
say I would be willing to say I think Marvel was planning on heading that way, no matter what, right?
I would. I would debate you on that. Like, it's one of those things that we can't know
Oh, sure,
because
sure.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Because Into the Spider-Verse came out in 2018.
Hmm.
This was between Spider-Man: Homecoming and Far From Home.
Hmm.
And as we all know, after Far From Home, there was this entire thing that the Sony and Marvel deal was set to end
Yes.
for a bit. And there was this entire debacle of where are they gonna go with this exactly.
Yeah,
And
because
then after they settle on a new deal, they settle on a new deal, and suddenly the talks about who's gonna be in, if it's gonna go into Spider-Verse route or not, came when they announced that Alfred Molina and Jamie Foxx were coming back. That started the debacle. So I can't really tell you what if they were planning on going there anyway, but Spider-Verse, I think, nudged it.
that's fair. I think that would be fair to say
Yeah,
because No
I
Way
mean,
Home
remember
came out
though
in
that there was this entire thing
20.
about
When did No Way Home come out?
2021.
2021. Yeah, that's far enough away that I could see that film being made after Spider Verse potentially, especially with how
Yeah,
Marvel's been pumping them out.
yeah, and again, like I said, when Spider Verse came out, Far From Home wasn't out yet. It was maybe filming, so they had time to they had time to cook it,
Yeah,
as
that's
they
fair.
say.
I can see where you're coming from. I think you're right in this regard. They probably hadn't considered it, and this movie came out, and they're like, oh, it does so great.
Mhm. Because people started talking about when are we gonna get a live action Spider Verse with with Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew
Well,
Garfield,
since
and
we've been bringing it up, right? Since we're
yeah.
kind of on the subject,
Mhm.
I know a lot of people compare because I remember hearing the talks, right? And I think we did talk about it in our No Way Home video or in our Spider-Man, look at, right,
Yeah, one of the
series.
one. Yeah,
We talked about
probably.
it a bit of the comparison between Into the Spider-Verse and No Way Home. You
Mhm.
know, I don't remember exactly what you had said or mentioned, but having seen both now, I can say that I think both are fine. I think they both do what works best for their respective mediums,
Yeah,
right? Like in like No Way Home does exactly what it needs to for a live action Spider-Man, right? Because it can draw off of the other live action Spider-Mans to pull from and do some fun stuff there with, and you wouldn't get that
because
right
I'll
in
tell
any
you
other
what,
movie.
it's interesting to also talk about that in the form of okay, you know what? Just to be safe, let's assume spoilers for Into the Spider Verse starting now. Even though people will listen to this probably saw it, but just to be clear, spoilers from this point on. So yeah, close the video, watch the movie, come back later.
Hi,
All
if
right.
you're like me and hadn't watched it for over 4 years.
Yeah. So it's an interesting comparison because Into the Spider-Verse at its core, essentially, it's an origin story.
Yeah,
Not just for Miles, but for the Spider-Verse, basically. And especially from the trailers to Across the Spider-Verse, there are things being built up. Well,
yeah,
No Way Home is much more of a conclusion, not just for Tom Holland's Spidey, in a way, but also just a conclusion for Spider-Man in general, because we get a lot of closures for Andrew Garfield's and Tobey Maguire's franchises as well.
Mhm.
Toby and Doc Ock reuniting, and Andrew Garfield and Electro getting a bit of a reconciliation and everything. So it is, and in a way, I think no, Into the Spider Verse is more of a movie about what what it means to be Spider-Man. While No Way Home is a movie that basically celebrates the legacy of Spider-Man.
That's fair. I would agree with that.
Now, in terms, I would say that if I have to they are really, it's really tough for me to pick a favorite between the two. But I'll say,
Mm.
in terms of actual film, Spider Verse really edges out a win, just because I just think a lot of it is done really really well. And No Way Home, I could probably nitpick here and there some things, but that's just me.
I don't know. We got the the Tobey Maguire dance meme finally from No Way Home in the portal. So
By the
I
way,
think it
I
wins.
just want to say, when we covered the MCU Spider-Man, when No Way Home came out, I called it. I called that
Oh, I'm.
someone's gonna edit, Tobey Maguire doing the dance meme as soon as Ned brings them in, and they did it. I freaking called it.
I mean,
Where's my paycheck?
if someone didn't, I would be genuinely shocked, right? If someone
Yeah.
didn't do that, that would
No,
have
but I
blown my
said I'm
mind.
calling it
Oh
now, and
no,
they
you were
did it.
right. Complete, credit where credit is
You
due.
know,
You were absolutely
you
right.
know something. The guy who took the pointing meme and drew the Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield costumes
Oh
on it.
yeah.
When the three of them actually recreated the meme for the Blu-ray extras, that guy, whoever it was, he probably just sat down with a cigar, oh no, better yet, the ending of Avengers Infinity War, where Thanos is just sitting and smiling because he achieved his goal.
Mm,
This is what that person did.
yeah.
Wherever they are, whoever they are, they saw that picture and they're like, I made it.
Your
I
work is
made it in
done.
life. Yeah.
Time to rest now, meme maker. You've done the
Yeah, there
best
you
you
go.
can.
Yeah, go do. If you're happening to listen to this, go do what you want. You earned it, man. You called it.
Also, Spider Verse. I see you making that exact same joke in your movie too.
Well, to be honest, they did this in the post credits for
Well,
Into the Spider Verse.
they also made the dance joke. They also made a joke about the dancing thing from Tobey Maguire
Listen,
as well.
that joke when it's like, and I did this. We don't really talk about that. That is like that was the I saw this opening day, and this was the first part where the theater was just losing it,
I
because
laughed.
who
I'll
would have
admit.
thought they would go there?
I also laughed.
And
I'll admit.
yeah. By the way, I have to say, if you two were to tell me like Chris Pine as Spider-Man, I'll be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But in the animation and just voice acting, he did really freaking well.
Yeah, no, it was great. He did fine.
hmm Also, I just want to say another movie in which Chris Pine dies, Dink,
I mean,
and another thing,
it's his lot
uh,
in life, you know.
yeah, I know, but there are way too many movies where he dies, and I don't get that. Like, are people out for it anyway? Another interesting fun fact, though, one of the directors of Spider Verse, his first feature film was Rise of the Guardians, starring Chris Pine as Jack Frost.
Woo.
I think it's cool. I don't
No,
care.
that's
I like
fair.
it shows. I think
Rise
it's
of the
cool.
Guardians.
So
Jack Frost, another one of Chris Pine's characters that technically died.
there you go. You see what I mean? Then in Wonder Woman also, and
I
there's probably
mean,
something
when you're
else I don't
typecasted, you're
remember.
typecast, and he's typecasted to play the character that's going to die or has died.
Uh, yeah. Well, he's made a career. I don't worry for him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so where do we even begin with dissecting this movie? Because there's okay. You know what? You said that the other Spider people detract a bit from Miles' story. How come? Hit me.
I think, well, I mean, I don't think they detract. I think the idea detracts, right? Like, I feel like we don't get a ton of character from Miles, in my opinion. Or if we're, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, this, again, this might be one of those I need to rewatch it things, because there might be a lot of background stuff going on as well that I might have
I
missed on a single first watch through. But to me, it felt like there's some moments here that we're moving through kind of quickly, which I understand why. There's nothing bad about it. It just feels like, having watched other Spider-Man films, those moments we had more time with to develop and to like really set in the moment with.
but
And
I
in this
guess
one, because we're doing
maybe
like all the other Spider-Man and we're kind of doing the Into the Spider-Verse idea here, we don't have as much time to say sit with his, essentially his uncle's death. Like, even though he's like, they found a way to do the Uncle Ben death again. It's not Uncle Ben this time.
well, it's not Uncle Ben though, but
And it's not Uncle Ben,
I
but they
I'll
still
tell
killed his
you that
uncle.
this is another thing that I think that in a way it depends on I this
Also,
is
by the
depends
way, a
on when
Spider-Man with both of his parents alive. What the fuck is this shit?
well again that's actually one of the things that made Miles
No, that's
interesting
no.
when he was introduced. He
That's a
wasn't a
joke.
copy of Peter.
That's a joke. I'm perfectly fine with that. To be clear,
Yeah.
I have no issue with
Um.
that. That's actually a fine thing. That's good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like,
And
looking
also,
at,
I just want to say, I could just really see myself hating this incarnation of Jefferson Davis because he's like this father who wants to push, but they give him so much depth. They gave him so he's awesome. I love him. Like the way where he tell where that scene, when he sends Miles to school, and it's like you gotta say I love you back. And it's like that really that's it. That scene is spectacular. That scene is amazing. And then it comes back at the end, and when he actually talks to Miles at the door, it
no, him
again
talking to
take
Miles
this
at the door was a great scene, and like, they really let that's a scene that they needed to focus on, and they did, and they let that moment sit for just long
and
enough,
you
right?
see I think that's that this is an aftermath from the uncles because we see Aaron getting shot and then Miles has to run away with the body and they have the talk. Then Jefferson shows up and he's about to and he sees Aaron is dead and he's about to and he wants to commence a chase against this new Spider-Man. We see Miles being angry at his room, and then the others come in and tell him, "We've been there. We've been." They even got Spider-Ham. This ridiculous ass concept, and where he goes, Miles. The hardest part about this job is that you can't save everybody. How does this character provide this line and it works?
Probably because it's John Mulaney.
Yeah,
I
but
don't know.
that's the thing. And that's the thing. John Mulaney, though, he's funny. I didn't really expect him to deliver like the
True.
gut wrenching lines, but he did
I
it.
don't. That might not necessarily, like, again though, like, that's, it helps, right, that the animation is so so adept at conveying the emotion it needs to convey, that the scene work and the background music work as well, like, it's all done extremely well to convey the emotions it needs to convey and to get across to you, right, so you can feel the way the film wants or needs you to feel in a given scene.
Mhm. Yeah. So, in terms of, let me ask you this: what was your favorite part of the movie?
Ooh, I mean, like I said before, I definitely loved the talk between him and, Davis, his dad, right?
Like at the
And
door,
yeah, at the
when
door,
when
yeah, at the door, right? Like, that was a great scene, and I like, again, it was one of those few times in the movie where it felt like it slowed down somewhat, right? Because this movie feels very fast paced. I thought, to me,
and which is interesting though because it's 2 hours,
yeah,
but I don't feel like it's 2 hours.
no, like, I got done watching this, and I'm like, how long is this movie? An hour 56, right? When I first started watching, I was like, huh, that's longer than what I thought this would be for an animated film. And then I get to the end of it, and I'm like, I did not feel like almost 2 hours had passed, but apparently it has. But it definitely did not feel like that at all. But yeah, like,
Mm-hmm.
that was one scene that I really enjoyed. Seeing him coming back to the rescue to help out all the other spider people was a great scene. Like, in the big
Yeah.
final fight there was a great scene. I'll
Yeah,
admit,
I love
like
the
it
build
was
up there
very
that
quick.
because you see Doc Ock's tentacles like starting to hit her, and you're like, wait, what? And then like when he comes in out of the invisibility, it's like, and there's this flash of colors on the screen, like such a good moment.
I also, there's two other moments that are a lot smaller. I love that apparently, this universe's Peter Parker's basically Batman,
Well,
essentially.
he's a lot. Yeah, that he has all of those other costumes. By the way, I noticed the PS4 suit in there.
Hmm.
Thank you.
But yeah, like
And
that was a thing, and also I kind of adored Penny. That was great, especially
yeah,
seeing
I
her
know
like,
you are going like.
yeah,
I'll tell you what. I am probably the a hipster here because I actually read her origin comic. I think it was part of the Spider Verse bundle that I got.
mm,
So I think it's part of that. But like the comic where you actually see the story of her connecting with the spider, it was actually kind of creepy, but also really cool. So
mm,
I actually knew the character before that.
mm.
I'm a hipster.
Yeah, you are a hipster in this one. Yeah, I liked Penny. It was adorable, and I also enjoyed seeing her like during the big final fight and having to like leave the poor robot and being upset and broken about it. Like it was a nice little
Yeah,
moment,
and then she rebuilds it. We see a quick bit where she rebuilds it. Yeah,
but it
that's
is again, right, like that comes back to I would say the characters like Noir Spider-Man, Penny, and Ham Spider Ham definitely
Spider
take a
Ham.
definitely take a back seat in this film, I would say.
Yeah, well, they are minor characters. They
Which
are
is
not the
again, I
movies.
get it, right?
And for what they have, they do like Spider Ham is hilarious. Spider Man Noir, I fucking love. Like
I
people who
listen,
know me, people who
fucking
know me know that I love Nicolas Cage, both ironically and not ironically, and he is doing amazing. Like the lines they give him to say are because he's supposed to be like this, serious. I'm from the 1930s. I like to, and
like
when
I'm
he
from the
goes, sometimes
1930s and I
sometimes I
fought
let the
Nazis, a
fly.
lot of Nazis. And it's like,
Yeah, then when it goes like sometimes I let a match just to feel something, anything, and then when it runs out, it's like, oh, that's amazing. That's so good. And then they try to teach him colors with a Rubik's cube and everything. So many great
listen,
moments. Like,
right?
mhm.
Casting Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir was probably the most brilliant thing this movie did, in my opinion. Right? I don't think there is
Yeah,
a better fit. Let's be honest. Genuinely, I
definitely.
do not think there is a better fit at all.
Yeah, no, I love that. Also, he gets those scenes where the comedic timing with him, like when they are trying to break into Kingpin's thing, and he notices that all the waiters are dressed in Spider-Man masks, and it's like it can be that easy, and then it just cuts to them as waiters, and it's like it's that easy.
Mm,
It's like the timing is so good.
fair.
Um, Okay, so I'm trying to think if there's anything. One thing, something. What did you think about Gwen, about Spider Gwen?
I thought she was fine. I liked her. Like I again, it's one of those things of I would have liked a bit more from her character wise, but like
You
overall, I
will
got what I
be
needed to. I think she was
well.
fine,
You
and
will be interested in not only well, of course, she's going to be in the sequel, but
yeah,
they are developing a spin-off focused on her and other Spider Women in the
I think that
middles.
would be interesting if we got a spin off focused more on Penny and
It,
Gwen and
it
other
is
stuff.
I know that they're talking about this. I think across the Spider Verse might set it up that there's going to be, it's gonna be called Spider Woman, and it's like it's gonna be Gwen, it's gonna be Jessica Drew, the actual Spider Woman, and
Hmm.
Silk, Cindy Moon. So I'm
Okay,
looking forward to that. Give me that.
I'm interested, but again, I come to is that right? Is it too late? Right? Have we done just too much, and maybe they should hold off? Like it's
I
I hope it's like I'm sure since it's focused more on the Spider Women, and if it's in this art style, if they're gonna do it like in animation wise with
well,
this kind of
it's gonna
styling,
be a spin-off, so most likely.
yeah. But then maybe it'll be different enough. But you do have to, I think, at this point, really consider just the superhero fatigue at this point. I think if
Yeah.
it's generally something I think
And
is setting
honestly,
in if
not
it
just
hasn't already
superhero
set in.
fatigue, and not but the sad fact also that there's probably also just a Spider-Man fatigue. Like you had four cinematic Spider-Mans at this point, and
And
as
plus you
much as it's
have Spider-Man universe stuff like
yeah.
the one that shall not be named.
And, well, but that's the thing. Like even if we are talking about Venom and Mobius and everything, uh, like there's so much Spider-Man, and like granted, Spider-Man is huge. It's gonna do well, Mobius aside, but it's. I
Fact,
get
we
that
don't talk about
there's
Mobius.
probably. I've even seen people with Across the Spider-Verse who are saying that they're fatigued, and it's like your loss because it's probably going to be amazing like this one. But I also kind of sadly get it
Mm.
because how much can if people are fatigued out of superheroes in general, maybe, I'm sure, it depends, I guess. But if people are so fatigued with the concept of superheroes, then the same one that we've been seeing for over 20 years now, I can see it. I'm not saying that I'm gonna be there, Spider-Man characters, you can be
Listen,
fatigued,
like,
I'm there.
yeah, I mean, I get it, right? It's definitely gonna be one of those things of everyone's gonna have their limit, but out of the superhero films we've all seen and we have the most experience with, I would definitely say Batman and Spider-Man are they're if they haven't already, they're starting to reach their limit of we've seen enough of you. Something new,
Yeah.
please. We need someone new to take the spotlight at the very least for a while, I think.
And who knows? Maybe at some point something will happen. Like I can tell you, like who would have even thought that Guardians of the Galaxy would be such a success? But now the Guardians are household names.
This is
So,
true.
but to go back to Spider Verse, I do want to point out that what you say about they are side characters essentially. I think that's one of the things that's great about them, that they kind of get just enough. Because if I were to ask you, I just ask you, would you watch a movie about Spider Gwen? You said yes. Would you watch a
Yeah.
movie about Spider Man Noir? You would say yes.
I,
Penny, Spider.
I don't
If
know about that one. Like, I love me some Nick Cage, like you, ironically and unironically. But even if it is Spider-Man, like they would have to be really clever with how they do the writing for that, because Nick Cage is one of those things he's good in doses. Him as the main character leading a film, him as a side character in a film and he takes a bigger role, okay. Him as a side character in a film and he takes a smaller role, great. Like, I don't know about Spider-Man Noir if it's Nick Cage. Like, I love you, buddy. You're great. But eh.
Okay, fair,
But
but
Spider
I would
Gwen,
I would be up
Penny,
for it.
the others, Spider Ham.
I would, but maybe it's just me.
Oh no, that's fair. Again,
Um,
I get it. It's fair.
but the reason I ask you about Spider Gwen is because you've probably seen, other versions of Gwen Stacy, and like, were you aware that Spider Gwen was a thing before this movie,
Yeah,
or is
yeah,
this
yeah. I've
okay?
heard of Spider Gwen before this movie. I knew it's like a thing that has happened in the comics, or they've done
Because
stuff with it
people,
before.
because legit, I'm not joking. When the trailer for this came out and we saw Spider Gwen, people legit asked me if they are ripping off the Light Fury from How to Train Your Dragon, and I'm like, sit down.
I love people. I'm
I
certain
hate people, but all
these are.
right.
Listen, I give the young ones a pass. They don't know things yet.
Uh, they were pretty old, my dude, but all right.
I'm comparative to me. I give the young ones a pass. They don't know things
Okay.
yet.
Anyway, but yeah, so I actually did enjoy seeing Spider Gwen in this. I was surprised that they were already jumping into their romance with Miles thing, and they didn't like the only thing they take with her and Peter is actually from her comic that her Uncle Ben was essentially Peter, who is the lizard in her universe.
Mm.
So that, but again, they just kind of brief. That's another thing I kind of love. The other characters, they give you their backstories, right? But they do this in like this really quick. Okay, let's do this one last time. They give you this quick exposition. It's there. You get it. Moving on. no need to dwell on that. I thought it was really creative and really cool.
It's it's good.
Mhm.
That's all
Now
I'll
to
say.
think about, okay, so I guess we're 7 miles to the end here. So, what did you think about Peter B. Parker, since he's the one that we are spending more time with?
I mean, as a fellow old jaded old man, he was my favorite. Just behind Penny, I would say,
All right.
or above
So,
Penny.
mm. And that's another thing I would give them credit for. How many times have we seen it? Like for most of the live action Peters, like you could argue that with Toby they barely focused on it, and to also some extent with Andrew, but you usually saw, as it happens, that we see the origin, you see the bite, you see Uncle Ben dying, and when that happens, Peter is in high school. But we never really got to see an adult Peter, like somewhat in the Andrew and Peter in the Tobey Maguire sequels, kinda, somewhat. But so I love to actually see a Spider-Man who's been doing this for over 2 decades, and he's just done with this shit. He is done,
Mm.
but he kind of keeps going because he doesn't know any better, right? And essentially, I liked his character growth, that he's a person that's stuck with this thing he started when he was a teenager, and the reason he divorced MJ is because he was scared of the concept of having a kid, probably because he doesn't feel ready yet. And it's only thanks to mentoring Miles that he realizes, I can do this, I want to do this. I
Well, he's also
and
fucking terrible at it, but welcome to parenting, I suppose. Everyone is.
Let's see how Across the Spider Verse goes with that.
Mm.
And the other thing I like is, he's as much as he's like, and also as much as he's, out of it and as goofy as he can be and stuff, he's still a competent Spider-Man. He's been doing this for so long, and there's a line where he says, oh, there's always like a certain death, but there's a little bit of time before everyone dies and everything goes to the shit, and that little moment is when I do my best work. And it's both clever because in these kind of stories, it's always like the last minute that the hero manages to save the day, right?
Yeah.
It's always the last minute, just before everything goes to shit, that the hero manages against all odds. So it's a fun markup of that cliche, but it also makes sense that again he's been doing this for 22 years. Of course, he's just gonna know. Yeah, there's always this little window where I do my best work. Like it makes sense on both ways. It's genius writing.
No, I really liked Peter B. Parker,
Mm-hmm.
in this because again, they excelled at making him that, he's the mentor who is terrible at being a mentor, and he's jaded, he's older, he's disheveled, he's definitely, like kind of done with all this shit, and he's also hit because he's hit rock bottom to a degree, and he doesn't really know what to do,
Mm-hmm.
but he keeps doing this because it's been his thing, so he might as well keep up at it because it's the one thing he can do. I really
Mm-hmm.
liked it, and I would say this is the one thing. This is definitely one thing that I would give Into the Spider Verse over No Way Home. No Way Home tried to do a little bit of the like older Spider Man with Toby. I feel like making him like the oldest one there to a degree because he is. He looks
Because
it.
he is,
Yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
but nothing ever really major, in my opinion, came across by that in the movie other than Toby just looking older. you know,
Yeah.
this film I
Well,
think.
because I think from what I've heard, this was actually one of his conditions to coming back. He didn't really want people to get too much resolution on his character. It's because that wasn't the point.
No, that's
He didn't
fair.
want to have. So I get it. I get what you mean,
I'm
but
not
I'm
saying
also,
like
let's
we
say,
needed something from it. I'm just saying like they
yeah.
maybe could have done a little bit more of him being older in that movie, perchance something
Yeah.
small. There's still like he's been through this shit before more than the other two have
Well,
at this point. A little bit
well, he
more.
did, his back did get stuck and Andrew had to pop it. So,
Yeah,
there's that.
that, but like that was the only thing. It's like,
Yeah.
I get it. I'm an old man. I've been there, but but yeah,
Yeah.
like I think in this movie they do a lot more of that, right? Like you really get a more complete, okay, this is the old jaded mentor character, and you can really feel it, and they really do it well here.
hmm And I also like that, you get to the point where Miles asks him, "Where would I know I'm ready? When do I know I'm Spider-Man?" And Peter tells him, "You won't. It's a leap of faith." And it comes back when Peter volunteers to stay and not go back, knowing that it will kill him, and and then when Miles actually catches him off guard and is about to let him go, and Peter tells him, "How do I know I'm not gonna mess it up again?" Miles tells him, "You won't." It's like, right, it's a leap of faith, and then he goes, "Not bad, kid." Like, that's such a good moment. Like, I know we've seen moments like this before, but it's done so well. I love that part.
Yeah,
So
no,
good. Hmm. Also, there's a PlayStation controller floating in the background of that sequence for some reason. I don't know why.
yeah, no, it makes no sense.
Mhm. So we talked about Peter B. Actually, something when he says that when he got married to MJ, he's breaking a glass. Peter B. Parker is Jewish. We have a media which confirms this. I'm so happy. Jewish pride. Anywho,
Fair, fair.
I get we didn't really talk about the villains. Actually, something. When it's kind of a Peter B moment, but when they go to the Miles Peter's house, right, and where Aunt May is. And
Mhm.
I love it when she opens the door and she says, "You're really nice, but more fans today." Then when she sees Peter, she's just dropping everything. This is the nephew she thought she lost, and to him, this is the aunt he buried. And it's such a good moment for both of them. It honestly, it touches me every time. It's so good.
Mm. Agreed. Like that was a really nice moment too, and it's not something and that's one of those moments where again they focused on it just enough, right? You didn't need too much with that one, like you did certain other moments, so you needed just enough quiet, and they did perfect with it. Like you can tell, right? There's a lot of stuff here where they do exceptionally well with it, and
Mhm.
I guess
And
like you know this is being very nitpicky at me, but maybe I just wanted more and I didn't get it because they can't give you more because they do have a time limit with these things, right?
yeah, well, that's why we have a sequel. Um,
Nah.
but also, if we are gonna talk about stuff that this movie does really well, comedic timing.
Agreed.
Comedic timing in this movie is just so on point with so many moments, and just again, this is a point I was gonna bring up, that when Peter and Miles are escaping Kingpin's lab, right? And so Peter grabs the bagel, and then all the scientists are just getting their guns out, and they start chasing them. And there's this one lady there that goes, "He's got a bagel." Like, one, priorities. Two, just because it's the most unprioritizing thing ever, it gets me so much. And three, apparently my girlfriend is friends with the guy who animated that shot. You know what I said earlier about the guy who made the meme with the three Spider-Man? Yeah, I'm that guy now. I made it. I'm I'm dating one of this guy's friends. I'm good in life.
Sure.
Anywho, moving on with the comedic timings. That's another earlier, before when Miles is going to cover for Peter when Kingpin shows up, and there's a point where he tells him, "Trust me, this is really basic Spider-Man stuff. Watch this. He's gonna say you have 24 hours. You have 24 hours," and he winks at him. Just the comedy, just. Beautiful all around. And I guess we didn't really talk about the villains. What do you have to say about the villains?
I mean, it's Kingpin. They do Kingpin very well. You know, he's
Mhm.
imposing, he's huge, and he's strong. And that's what you
Yeah,
need for Kingpin. I,
although maybe it's just my mind, but how in the hell did this giant got this normally looking lady pregnant?
we don't ask questions like that.
I guess we don't.
Why, there's you don't need details. You just accept it. It's okay.
Mhm.
You don't
Yeah,
need to
but I
know.
think, yeah, but I think Kingpin again. Kingpin was really well done. I love Doc Ock in this. Like, it's not the first time that we had a female Doc Ock, but when they revealed it, I'm like, oh shit, awesome reveal. Uh, also, not sure if you know this, but you know how when Peter tells her, "I assume your friends call you Doc Ock," and she goes, "My friends call me Liv. My enemies call me Doc Ock." And when they arrive at Aunt May's house, May actually says, "Oh, great, it's Liv."
Again, right? Like that's the thing where I go back
People
to. You
may,
can tell this is a film, like just like Puss in Boots and some of the others that have come out there. You're going to have to watch through more than once because there's going to be little things like that that you don't catch necessarily right off the top of your
yeah,
head.
but when you catch that, and people did, the fan fiction exists. You can be
Oh yeah,
certain,
I'm sure. I have no
and
doubts.
and and I oddly am interested. Oddly. Hey, what? Who said that it can happen? Come on, Ben's dead. Maybe she is bi. You may never know.
I'm not judging. There was no
Mhm.
judgment.
I know though that you judge me if I'm saying that I'm looking for the erotic as people wrote that. No, I just want to see a legit relationship between these two. I want to see if people wrote that, if that's actually good. Back to movie.
No
I
comment.
so I guess Prowler kind of counts as a villain. Miles's uncle. That he
He's
if
fine, but there's not a lot
Mhm.
from it. Again, like I get it. We don't want to do the uncle scene again and again and again. We've been through it how many times at
No,
this
but
point?
listen, the music though, his team
Oh
is
no,
so
it's
awesome.
good. It's really good. Like again, we mentioning it once more. The soundtrack behind this is great. It's wonderful.
We didn't even talk about my personal favorite scene, which is when Miles, does his leap of faith. What's up, Danger? Awesome song.
Mm. Agreed.
But I liked this version of Aaron Davis, and also we never saw the. I must stress that the Prowler is a villain that exists before Miles was even a thing. So, so I like the idea that we finally got to see him, and for a big screen debut, they did great.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because he's tied to the lead. I am just sad that we won't get to see him again, maybe in flashbacks, but what can you do? Um, so I think we covered everything. Only one thing remains: Miles Morales himself.
Terrible, awful character.
Of course, yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, like Miles is great. Again, I come back to I wish we would have gotten a bit more with him. I feel like there's some things that, maybe we could have focused a little bit more on and maybe drop something different, but it's really hard to pick in this movie what you could
I
drop for
will
focusing.
say, I will say, from because I haven't read too many Miles comics. I did. I even own a bunch, but I think this Miles is probably maybe aside from the games, from the Insomniac games. I think this is my favorite incarnation of Miles.
That's
Like,
fair.
I know there's more to him in here because the don't quote me on this, but I think his interest in art, the fact that he's an artist and he's doing graffiti and all that. That's for this movie. This, as far as I'm aware, this was not in the comics beforehand.
Mm, that's interesting.
So
And a
yeah,
nice addition, I would say.
so there's that. Also, like as far as I'm aware, it's been a while. If I'm wrong, somebody fix me. But he never really interacts with Peter before Peter in the comics. He doesn't really interact with him a lot before he dies, and Miles has to take over. Basically, he gets bitten by the spider, and there's this entire thing that maybe he tries and stuff, but then when he sees Peter dying because it's a public event in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, he kind of has this is like his Uncle Ben in a way that he figures out that if there was one extra Spider-Man there, things could have been different. So that's like his origin in that, and
I'm not sure that's
there's
as good an origin potentially. I'd have to see it and read through it or whatever, right, just to understand it a lot better
and
and know
also
for
keep in mind
certain.
it's been a while. I could be
Sure.
missing some details. So,
But if that's the
but
way they did it there, I would say the movie does it better as far as like
yeah,
origin
because
stories go.
when he actually talks to him, he actually, and he promises him, I'm gonna carry on your work. I'm gonna do this, and also like that, and just to, I have to stress again that there are so many the fact that there are so many versions of Spider-Man there just kind of shows that there's something for everyone here. If you're a fan of Miles, you're obviously going to dig it. But if you're a fan of a Spider-Man that's flawed, you have Peter B. If you are a fan of a Spider-Man that got his life together, knows what he's doing, is 100% competent, and also nice and jokey and stuff, you have this Peter. If you have everyone has something to enjoy in this movie,
Mm.
and Miles just kind of ties it all together because the story focuses on him and it's about him learning to be a Spider-Man and and everything that comes with it. I There's not much else to say. I just really love this movie, and a lot of people do.
Fucking marry it, why don't you? God.
Um, considering my girlfriend loves it too, we need to find a country which allows more than, and then maybe.
Have fun.
hmm Um, I guess, is there anything else to say besides
Yeah, I think we should talk about, we're doing this in anticipation for the next Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse
actually,
movie.
before we talk about, there is one
Before
thing I
that,
want to.
one
Okay,
thing.
before that, what I just remembered. This movie came out not even a month, if I maybe a few weeks
Mm,
after Stanley died.
mm,
And so I remember in the theater watching this, and when this thing happens, I'm like, and because it's like this news event, people talk about it, and the people's reactions. I'm like, fuck, this is like literally like when Stan died. That everyone was just felt like this icon went away, like we lost this figure that we just kind of knew was there, and even if we didn't meet, we just it gave us something. As I'm thinking that suddenly his cameo comes in, and then he goes, "I'm gonna miss him. We were friends," and it's like, fuck, like it actually hit me that like it was as if he's speaking to us, from beyond the grave. It was chilling.
no, like it's really well timed and it's a really good scene, I think, for him to
And
go
what's
out
yeah,
on, right?
like now I also appreciate it because when he tells to Miles, it always fits eventually. So like for one, it's a joke because he was a businessman, but two, it does fit into the theme of the movie that eventually Miles will grow into the suit. Miles will fit in it.
Mm.
But it was a bit scary just how timed it was because they didn't know it was gonna happen. He probably recorded this line years before, and suddenly, bam.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's that. Also, actually, another funny scene that when Miles wants to practice jumping from buildings, so like he climbs to this one building, and it's like, no, it's too. And as you think he's gonna jump, it's like, no, never mind. And it just cuts to him going down the steps. That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like you said, we are doing this in anticipation for Across the Spider Verse, the
Yes.
sequel. Mhm.
So I think it bears asking:
Yeah.
is there anything you're looking forward to from Across the Spider Verse? Anything in particular you would really want to see?
Well, I'll tell you what. According to trailers,
I have
the
watched none.
okay, you want not, but I will say that one thing that one panel, or at least one one thing that I remember from the Miles run is that they tell us, like, you keep thinking what Peter Parker would do, what would Miles Morales do? And this was something that it was essential. It was there, but wasn't really spoken in a way in Into the Spider Verse. So I and based on what they seem to go for with the advertisement, I think this one is really going to set Miles apart
I think that's fair. I
from.
think it's needed, right?
Mhm. And I think, and not that he is too similar, not that he's similar to Peter in this or anything. They do a great job showing you that he's not Peter.
But I
But
still think it's needed, though, right? I
yeah,
think he
no,
takes
but
too
that's the
much
thing.
from,
I still think it's needed, and especially because we see
and that it's
all
a
the
good
other
focus.
Spider people, and we see Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099 and everything, and you see, and just the entire way in which it works. I I like the idea of the one Spider-Man that goes against them all. The one because the I think it's no surprise to those who know me that I love stories about the odd one out, in a way, the underdog, which manages to rise up against what he needs to when things get rough. So it
Hmm.
seems to be that and Spider-Man in a lot of ways is that hero.
Yep.
He's not a billionaire, he's not an alien, he's just a guy from Queens, and he's still managing to kick ass and save the day. So what is a Spider-Man that's different from the other Spider-Man? I love this direction, and I'm interested in seeing that direction. I want to see we have Gwen and Peter B coming back. I love to see what their part in this entire thing is. I just want to see more. I want to see where the story continues, and I want to see Miles grow as a Spider-Man. And give me that, and I'm happy. Everything else you want to give me, great.
Icing on top. That's fair. Another question, though, I'm curious to ask you:
Mhm.
do
Yeah,
you think you needed a sequel?
I
Because
want
I'm
to
sitting
say.
here having seen this one personally, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't need a sequel. Like, I'm fine that I'm getting one. I understand it, obviously, but I don't think it needed one personally.
Mm. I'll tell you what. In a way, I am in one of those beliefs that no movie really needs a sequel. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you
Mm-hmm.
feel like a movie needs a sequel, then the movie didn't do its job because it didn't satisfy you on its own.
Fair. So, do you
Now,
want one then? Or would you have wanted one? Well, I guess that's like too easy. Yes, you always want more of the thing you love, right? Um,
yeah, like, and I will say in regards to Spider Verse itself, like, I was kind of in this mindset of it could work, but I'm also like, there's always this fear with sequels to stuff you love that what if what if the lightning doesn't strike twice?
mm,
Because I go back to the entire Into the Spider Verse is just such a technically perfect film to me. I forgot to mention this, but with every cinematic Spider-Man before, I felt like there was something that was missing. Even though I love all three for different reasons, like the Maguire films, I felt they were missing the character development. They were missing progression in a way.
mm,
They were very formulaic, and I didn't feel like the teams really came through at the end of the day. With the Andrew Garfield movies, I felt like there was some sort of a character journey there, but I felt it lacked focus. They tried to do so much that they just lost themselves, and they didn't really know if they want to continue with the with a serious plot or to go back to the goofy comic book.
Yeah.
And and the Tom Holland thing is like, okay, I get to see Spidey with the Avengers. I get to see a kid that's growing up, that's growing into the, that's going in with the grown-ups and eventually having to face his coming of age. But I also felt that they, by just basing him around his with the Avengers, they forgot some other aspects of the character. Not many. It's still Spider-Man, but there was just something that was a bit missing until the third one.
Mm.
So into the Spider Verse felt just like the first one. That's like they got everything. They nailed Spider Man. If I need to pinpoint like perfect Spider Man representations into the Spider Verse, watch that. You get everything you want.
Fair.
Now, so when you tell me there's gonna be a sequel, I'm like, on the one hand, okay, I'm excited, especially because the crew's coming back. It's still, Chris Miller and I forgot the other guy's name. Damn it! But
Shamik Moore as Miles.
no,
You have.
Shamik Moore. No, that's the guy.
Oh,
Voicing
you mean the
Miles.
like the directors, right?
And no, like producers, writers in this case.
Oh,
I
okay,
know.
yeah.
Hmm. But you got them back. You got the same crew back. You got the people who made the first one walk, right? You got them. So I'm excited to see if they can pull it off. But I'm also, if you were to ask me before there was any announcement, do you want a sequel? I would say I got everything I need. I don't think it necessarily needs one. But if they're gonna go in that direction and they're gonna develop, it probably give us more Miles and Gwen, give us more of Peter B. They're gonna have Miguel O'Hara. So there are definitely interesting things, and I just hope that again, with everything they want to do in it, with it, I just hope that they'll remember that this is still Miles Morales' story.
Hmm.
Now,
Agreed.
and by the way, we also know that there's going to be a threequel. Across the Spider Verse was supposed to be a two-parter, and then they just changed it. The third one is gonna be called Beyond the Spider Verse, and it's coming out next year.
Hmm. Well, if they planned it from the beginning, I don't think there's too much fear of worrying if
Yeah,
it doesn't
and
land
actually,
again.
interesting thing to note in the deleted scenes when after Miles shuts down the machine, there was a little scene of as everything as the portal is closing up, that Doc Ock actually sees the possibilities of the portal, and she jumps in just before it closes. This was supposed to be the sequel tease. They cut it because they didn't know exactly if there's gonna be one or not. So there might have been a plan all along. I want to give them the benefit.
At the very least, I say it's always, as long as they're able to make a film that's as good, right? Then I think
Mhm.
they've done what they
And
need to do. You would hope
early
it's better,
early
but
reactions did come out. Early reactions are out at the time of this recording. So far, people are praising it.
mm, okay. Hopefully, it can remain that way
Um,
when it gets to the wider audience. But these things
yeah,
always change.
like for the record, as we're recording this, the movie is 4 days away where I live. Like I already have tickets for 4 days away from now, and I'm excited. And I'm Wolf isn't at all, but I'm sending him to see it anyway because I'm evil.
I'm being forced out of my rock. Yeah,
But when regarding what the final verdict on Across the Spider Verse would be, you will be here to talk about it next week.
yeah.
I I'm hopeful and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm definitely interested, and I have to go out and do all the the normal people things, I suppose, for once, every blue moon. But
Mhm.
I'm interested. I think it'll be fun. At the very least, I'm going to have fun with it, right? And it'll
Yep.
be interesting, and it'll be nice to get to see one of these in like on the big screen and see
Mhm.
if that changes the experience any.
Oh, I'm sure. Like I've seen Into the Spider Verse on the big screen twice. It was great.
I bet, because it definitely looks like a film that it would. benefit more
Yeah,
from that,
like
right?
the second time I went with a friend who was just like, I want to see Pretty again. Let's go see Pretty. Actually, another thing about the animation in Into the Spider Verse, just to close it up, I forgot to mention it, and I think it's very cool. That at the start of, like, for the majority of the movie, Miles is animated at 12 frames per second, and only near the end do they switch him over to 24 frames per second because now he grown into the Spider-Man role.
Hmm. Interesting. Like yeah,
Yeah.
like I'm very interested. As a small side thing, as we're wrapping up here,
Mhm.
I, I feel like we're going to get, and we're starting to see more and more of this. I feel, and I think we're heading in this direction for animation, where we're going to start seeing them playing with frames for animation more. Kind of what they used
Yeah.
to do back in the day, somewhat, and then they kind of stopped doing for CG. But I think we're starting to see a lot more of that again, right?
Yeah, and as we talked about, in a way, it's thanks to Spider Verse that it kind of came back.
Mm-hmm. And you know, it's very good, and I think you'll start to see film, especially animated films that use this more, being a lot more memorable or standing out in your mind more, especially with certain scenes. And I'm curious as to how that'll reflect on animation moving forward, right?
Yeah, because right now people
And
see
if
this
that'll
and
take off
it's like,
more.
yeah, because now people say it's like, oh, it's the Spider Verse thing. But if it becomes the norm, which I don't think so. Disney movies still. Actually, I think the next Disney movie called Wish, it's like it doesn't really do that, but some people say it does. But I didn't know it's from the trailer. But
I've not seen
we'll
enough
see.
of it yet to say.
Mhm. We'll see whenever that comes out. But anyway, anything else to say about Into the Spider Verse?
No, if you're like me and you lived under the rock for a while, you're still living under the rock, you can come out and go watch this one. It's all right. It's worth it.
Well, if they listened until this point, that means they've watched it because we just spoiled the whole thing.
Well,
So
people skip around. Maybe they skip to just the end to do just the ending thoughts. So
maybe.
I'm letting you know. You
Well,
can come out of the rock. It's okay.
mhm. Well, so with that said, that's all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? And are you looking forward to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below, on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and on our Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team. So until next time, when we cover the sequel, I was HC.
I was Wolf.
And we will see you all next time. Take care.
Bye bye.